All right, Nuggets fans, welcome into Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by our good friends over at Mile High Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn, at NBA Blackburn on Twitter. Very excited for tonight's game that the Nuggets will be playing, a massive Game 3. They tie the series up 1-1 on Monday night. The Clippers did. It was a big win for them. And this was a big moment for Denver, a big potential response opportunity for Denver as they have to face the Clippers at Intuit Dome for the first time. This is the first matchup in Intuit Dome's history, and I am looking forward to seeing how the Nuggets respond to what should be a hostile environment. We will see how it goes, but Denver's got a lot working against them in this particular game. But we've seen Denver rise to the occasion in those situations before. So I am looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun, hopefully. And we will be able to talk about it all together. So looking forward to get started here. On this particular episode of Pickaxe and Roll, you've got to make sure to like and subscribe, of course. If you're listening on the audio side, would really appreciate a 5-star review. If you are listening on this video side here, I've got some things I'm going to present on the screen, including a projected rotation for tonight if Michael Porter Jr. is out. I've shared it a little bit earlier online, but now you have an opportunity to see it here. So make sure to check in on the YouTube side of things. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Would really appreciate it. Sorry, brain didn't work there for just a second. Let's get all the way into it now. Game threes are very important in the NBA, especially when you're tied up 1-1, especially in a 4-5 matchup like this. My colleague over at Locked On, Matt Moore, actually shared a very interesting stat with me that in 4-5 matchups, when the 4 seed goes on the road, they are actually better than 50% historically in terms of how often they have won that first game. Seems kind of odd. You would expect that a 4-5 matchup, team's relatively even. You would expect the 5 seed to be the one to win when they're at home like that. But Denver actually is in a pretty good situation for this. I do think that Denver is going to be pretty competitive, at least initially in this game. I don't think they're actually going to win, because there are a lot of things that are kind of pulling against them, but we'll get into that in just a minute. Before we do, I've got some stats that I would like to share, some things that over the course of these last couple of days I've compiled and all of the writing that I've done over at Mile High Sports. You should make sure to go check it out. There's a lot of things that I've put together just in terms of the different angles, some of the trends that we're seeing, some of the things over the course of this series. By the way, I said that I don't think they're going to win Game 3. I still think that they're going to win the series, even if they don't win Game 3. So take that for what you will. But like, Denver's got a lot that they have to deal with in this first kind of road matchup for themselves, including the fact that Michael Porter is hurt. He's questionable tonight, and we'll talk about that as well. But the first thing that Denver has to worry about, even beyond Michael Porter Jr.'s health status, is what to do with Kawhi Leonard. He's got 30 points per game in this series so far, about 30.5 points per game on 70% from the field. Just a ridiculous shooting stretch for him over these first 2 games. And he's made 24 total shots in those 2 games. I went back and looked at all of them. I went back and looked at the ones that he's kind of getting good possessions on and the ones where he's making. I've broken them down into who he has made them against, as well as some transition possessions. Transition, I'm not really blaming any one person, like even the person that Kawhi is matched up against, because that's a really tough position, especially if you're working at a 2-on-1 or a 3-on-2. I'm not going to sit here and blame Jalen Pickett for that, or Jamal Murray for that, or anything like that. I'm just not going to. Or Aaron Gordon, who he scored on a couple times. But In total, he had 6 transition shots where I'm not really blaming anybody out of 24. He also had 7 shots that he made over Jamal Murray in these first 2 games. He had 4 made over Aaron Gordon, 2 made over Russell Westbrook, 2 made over Peyton Watson, 1 made against Nikola Jokic, 1 made against Christian Braun, and 1 kind of made against everyone at once, where he went 1-on-3 at the halfway mark, the halftime buzzer beater against Denver in game 2, where it was against, I think, Brown, Gordon, and Murray at the same time. Not going to blame any one of those guys for that. That's just something crazy. But the Jamal Murray ones are most certainly the most notable to me. Kawhi has really decided that he's wanted to hunt Jamal Murray in this series, and there's a twofold effect for that. The first is that Jamal at 6'4" is just not big enough and not physical enough to really bother Kawhi in a lot of these different situations. I remember back in the bubble where Jamal and him kind of went back and forth, and there were times where Jamal would get taken advantage of in the post, and there were times where he would absolutely lock down and prevent Kawhi from getting 2 different spots on the floor that he wanted to. And that was actually a matchup that Denver was okay living with 5 years ago. But now Kawhi has found plenty of success. Jamal obviously was sick in that game on game 2 on Monday. And I think that there's at least a world where he gets healthy, he gets a little bit better defensively, and maybe Kawhi misses a shot or 2. But I just don't see it that often. I think that when Denver has Murray guarding Kawhi, they're probably going to have to double. They're probably going to have to do some of those things to force the ball out of his hands, to blitz him a little bit, maybe just not give up the switch if possible. But it does seem to me like Denver could benefit themselves from simply not allowing Murray to get switched onto Kawhi as frequently as they possibly can. And if the Clippers are hunting that relentlessly, if they're spending a whole bunch of time every single possession trying to get Murray to guard Kawhi Leonard, then that's time that they're not spending actually trying to score. So it is a benefit to Denver to fight against that, to not allow that, and to force the Clippers to try to do something else. Or if they're going to work that hard for it, it just takes away the time that they have on the shot clock every single possession. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how it looks in game 3 and beyond, but just notable to kind of go through all of Kawhi's shots and see, yeah, Jamal Murray was on the receiving end of 7 of them. Aaron Gordon only 4, given that he's the primary matchup most of the time. That is notable to me. Peyton Watson also only 2. I think that those 2 guys should be the one that guard Kawhi as often as possible. So we will see if Denver can find more minutes for Peyton Watson on the floor. I think that they will need it. Another couple of stats here real quick. The Clippers have their highest individual offensive rating when Leonard is on the floor at 117.9 points per 100 possessions. When he's off the floor, they have a poor 82.2 points per 100, offensive rating. So that's a 35-point gap right there. And if Denver can find ways to limit Kawhi's individual production, then I think they're going to really massively impact the team net rating, the team offensive rating for the Clippers in those situations. Because when Kawhi is out there, he's not necessarily uplifting everybody else around him. This isn't a situation where he's like Harden or like Jokic or like one of these other guys that is setting the table because of the attention he is receiving. He's probably going to kick it back out. He's going to make some bad passes. He's going to maybe make some average passes. And if Denver can limit those in their efficacy, then they'll be okay. So that's something that I'll be watching. Another number. This is the number of the day on the preview from earlier today. 23.5. Quote, That's the corner 3-point percentage that the Clippers shot on the road during the first 2 games against Denver, just 23.5%. That's very low. It wasn't like they prioritized having a whole bunch of great shooters there, I will say. Here are the breakdowns for who shot those threes, who shot those corner threes. Chris Dunn went 1 of 7. Nico Batum went 2 of 4. He's fantastic. If Denver could get a Nico Batum on their roster, then they would absolutely win this series. Derrick Jones Jr. shot 0 of 3. Norman Powell shot 0 of 2. Kawhi Leonard shot 1 of 1. So mostly it's Chris Dunn, Nico Batum, and Derrick Jones Jr. Those are the ones that you're looking for. The Clippers don't find a lot of corner threes. And that's a good thing for Denver because the corner three is often where they get most punished for the style of defense that they like to play, with Jokic being aggressive at the level and then Denver having to close out with some meh weak side corner shooters or corner defenders. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Denver handles that and whether the Clippers, especially at Intuit Dome, whether they are a little bit better. Because 23.5% from the corners, it's not high enough if you're the Clippers. If they shoot 40% in this next game, that will affect Denver in a negative way. They're probably going to lose the game. So Denver's got to find ways to prevent as many of those shots as they can. And if it does get to Chris Dunn or Derrick Jones Jr. or somebody like that, then you probably just have to live with it. So far, Denver's true shooting percentage ranks 12th out of 16 teams. Their efficiency has not been high. They were second in the NBA in true shooting percentage in the regular season. Denver has not been able to get the same amount of shots at the rim, the same quality of looks at the rim as they were able to generate during the regular season. Because shocking, the Clippers know that they're trying to do that and are trying to adjust and make Denver uncomfortable. And they have. Like, Denver's having to consider spacing the floor accurately and do some of those things. It's been pretty tough. Couple more stats. The Nuggets are not a pull-up shooting team. In the playoffs, I believe. Yeah, in the playoffs, the Nuggets have averaged 7.9 pull-up. Actually, no, this is a regular season stat. 7.9 pull-up threes per game attempted. For comparison, OKC was at 10.4, Cleveland was at 13.8, and Boston was at 16.8. The reason why I bring that up in kind of contribution with the true shooting is because when we're talking about spacing issues, when we're talking about the ability to break down a defense, an opposing defense that is very concentrated on Denver's interior scoring, their cutting, their offensive rebounding, the things that they've done well all season. The Clippers know that they have to prevent those things. If Denver had more pull-up three-point shooters, not just Jamal Murray, not just Nikola Jokic, who doesn't really shoot pull-ups, he's just kind of standing out there, and if somebody doesn't close out to him, he'll shoot. But if they had somebody else who was going off the dribble on a consistent basis, who was pulling the defense out vertically away from the rim, then you open up more opportunities underneath and then open up more kick out opportunities to the corner for spot up threes for guys like Michael Porter, for even Russell Westbrook, Christian Braun. Unfortunately, though, Denver doesn't have a ton of those kinds of options. And so if Jamal Murray isn't getting those shots, then Denver isn't getting those shots. And so the Clippers defense is just kind of flat in terms of they don't really have to go out to 30 feet when they're guarding Denver like they do other teams. And that, to me, I think is something that if you're looking at where to fix Denver's offensive issues going forward, it's why guys like Julian Strawther are very helpful. It's why he's a notable option that Denver could potentially not necessarily go to now, but continue trying to develop in the future. So something to note for sure. Finally, in the 11 minutes that the Nuggets have not played Jamal Murray, they are minus 18. in the first two games. So usually you look at the non-Jokic minutes. This time we're looking at the non-Murray minutes, kind of in terms of the efficacy of Denver's rotation. When Jokic is out there, usually things are great. When Murray's out there, honestly, things have been pretty great. Hasn't been perfect. And there have been weaknesses like, yeah, Kawhi has been attacking him individually, but if it's not that, then Denver's been fine. But here's the shooting breakdown for Denver in those non-Murray minutes. 5 of 19 from the field, 0 of 6 from 3, and just 3 assists compared to 5 turnovers. Denver has a 56.5 offensive rating when Murray sits so far. In those 11 minutes, Russell Westbrook has played all of them. He is 0 of 8 from the field, including 0 of 3 from 3. He has a 40% usage rate during that time. And these have been kind of at the end of the first, the end of the third quarter in those general ranges across the first two games. And to me, that is a notable time because you always want to start, you always want to end a quarter well. And Denver, if we're looking at margins, if we're looking at just where Denver could get a little bit better, they have to finish those quarters a little bit better. And Russ has to make his shots, like straight up. That's one thing. Or maybe Denver plays a slightly different lineup. Maybe they play a slightly different group in that stretch. Maybe they just have to look to Jokic a little bit more. He's taken one shot in that entire stretch, end of first, end of third quarter, without Murray on the floor. So something notable. I think that Denver has to be better in there. They probably have to feature Westbrook less in those minutes. And they just have to get to Jokic in the middle of the floor or in a post-up situation where he kicks out to other people. But yeah, Westbrook has to be roaming around the dunker and not like spotting up on the strong side, ready to take an above the break 3 or a 12-footer from on a pull-up jumper. Whew, I'm tired. Can you hear it from me, guys? I'm doing my best, but it has not been good. So apologies for stuttering over these words a little bit. I don't know what's going on. I'm just a little bit drained. Let me drink some coffee. And let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to chat about Michael Porter being questionable, as well as why I think Christian Braun is the key for the Nuggets tonight, outside of just your normal stuff. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're enjoying. Would really appreciate it. Okay, Michael Porter is questionable. He is listed on the injury report with a left shoulder sprain. Obviously, you guys saw when he hurt the shoulder. He asked out of the game at the end of game 2 with about a minute and a half left to go. And the Nuggets were in a really tough spot at that point because they weren't able to really do much good things when he was off the floor. He was really helping their spacing in a very important moment, and they did not capitalize after that point. So Denver needs Michael Porter, and he's questionable. If he does play, then I would expect his rotation to probably be kind of dependent on how he's feeling, not necessarily doing everything that he had been doing from a minute standpoint, but just kind of giving Denver what he can. I don't know how his shooting is going to be affected. This is his non-shooting shoulder that he has hurt. He hasn't spoken to the media since that Monday night and just kind of sounded like he was in a lot of pain at that point. So David Adelman yesterday, before they left for LA, spoke to local media, and he said that he was pretty optimistic in general that Porter would play. And he also talked about his pain tolerance and everything that he'd been doing and has had to deal with from an injury standpoint, and how he has played through a lot of stuff and how people don't really appreciate just how tough he is. There have been some things that I've heard off record that he is showing a lot of toughness. He's showing a lot of, we'll say, pain tolerance right now for the situation that he is in. And you hear that from a lot of guys, but you hear from Michael Porter's situation the most. Somebody who's had 3 back surgeries and has gone through this and has also dealt with the foot drop and the brace. And if you guys have listened to the DNVR show or read what Bennett Durando wrote, I believe a couple days ago about Porter's brace, you would know that it's broken, that it's something that he had been dealing with for 3 years, or using that particular brace, and just kind of unfortunate to be in a situation where you have to break in a new one, and he's been kind of uncomfortable with it. And I understand that, to be clear, but just an unfortunate time for this to all be happening, and unfortunate injury for him to have to suffer. I will say Denver's been relatively healthy overall in terms of just what they've had to deal with by comparison to other teams. And you never want to hear that as a fan base, especially when you're thinking, okay, well, we always have one guy out. We always have it's Jokic taking a break, or Murray is out, or Gordon is out, and Gordon was out for a significant period of time. Porter's now out. You don't want to hear this. Like, you don't want to hear that you've been in a relatively good health situation, but that is the truth. And the unfortunate reality of Denver not having a deep team is that anytime one injury occurs, anytime 2 injuries occur, it becomes even more meaningful to a team like Denver versus a team like OKC that just like has 16 different copies of the same player that they are able to kind of deploy and have a great defense with. So it's a tough place for Denver to be, but they need Mike. They need his scoring, they need his shooting, but honestly, they kind of need his size. They kind of need his rebounding and his willingness to mix it up. And when he's playing hard, when he's playing with abandon, he is somebody that they could absolutely trust on the glass, at least to get some boards. Um, Now, with a left shoulder injury, that's one where I'm not sure how impactful he's going to be on the glass in those situations. Is like, you're going to be banging with a whole bunch of other people in terms of like physicality. Like, I'm just waiting for him to try to box out Kawhi Leonard or Ivica Zubac, and it's not intentional from those guys if they were to bump his shoulder, but like, it's just basketball. And so if he's in a situation where that happens and he just is in too much pain to continue, it wouldn't surprise me. So the Nuggets have to know how they have to handle what happens if he's not able to play. It's a requirement. They just need to know what they're going to do. And I think they do know. That's why he's questionable. It's not why he's probable or anything. They know that they need to have at least a possibility where he's not out there and they have to come up with some different alternative. In a lot of these games, Russell Westbrook has been the guy to close. But I kind of don't think that if there is a starting spot open, if Michael Porter is not available to play, I don't think that Russell Westbrook starts. I kind of think it would be Peyton Watson. Kind of think that Peyton Watson would be the guy that they put out there. I think the reason is to just get somebody else on Kawhi Leonard at the beginning of games. And you might as well deploy somebody like that and say, hey, Aaron, we know you've been working really hard, man. We are going to put you on Norman Powell. Or actually, hell, you could probably put him on Chris Dunn and say, we're going to use you as the low man. We're going to use you to rotate off of some of these guys and provide a little bit more help at the rim, provide a little bit more help in rotation on the defensive glass, things like that. And that just wouldn't surprise me at all if Denver decided that and said, Peyton, sorry, buddy, your responsibility is to just guard Kawhi Leonard as well as you can for as long as you can. Contest every shot at your apex and do what you can. So I put together as I want to do, I put together a rotation chart for if Michael Porter Jr. was out and if the Nuggets needed to handle something. This is a hypothetical for if Peyton Watson was starting. I have him starting and playing the first 6 minutes of every quarter. So that's about 24 minutes. He had been playing 14 per game. And in this situation, Russell Westbrook plays a little bit more. And I've got Zeke Naji playing some minutes off the bench as well. Might not be perfect. And I had some folks, when I debuted this on Twitter, I had some folks be like, shouldn't like Julian Strother get out there for spacing purposes? Don't you want somebody else like that who could space the floor? And that's not a bad idea. It's not. Like maybe the right call in this situation is to not have Peyton Watson at the beginning of the quarter, to not have DeAndre Jordan out there. Maybe it's to have Julian Strother out there just to play a little bit smaller, provide a little bit more spacing, and just trust a guy that you drafted in the first round earlier this year, or earlier last year, excuse me. Don't Tell Santa Cruz is in here saying Adelman won't use Zeke. I don't know, man. I think that there's at least a world where you look at the rotations that Denver's been able to put out there, and you look at some of the guys that they're going to have to be guarding. Doesn't Zeke Naji kind of fit the profile in terms of, hey, you've got Kawhi Leonard. Okay. You have to switch Zeke Naji onto him. Isn't that better than Julian Strother? You have to be a little bit bigger in terms of the defensive rebounding, probably a little bit better in that situation to have Zeke out there. I know he's not a great defensive rebounder, but probably a little bit better than Julian Strother in that situation. And then the wings that the Clippers have, it's just the right style where you're worried about how Zeke Naji is going to match up with Ben Simmons, Nico Batum. I'm not. Like, honestly, I think that that's the kind of profile that you want to put him against instead of a whole bunch of perimeter guards and a big center. So I think that it's honestly okay. And Denver, like, look, because here's the thing. If Michael Porter isn't out there, if he's not playing, then you're going to go with like a 7.5 man rotation trying to put DeAndre Jordan out there. This is the first round of the playoffs, man. Like, you got to be able to survive. If you have championship aspirations, you have to be able to survive one absence. You have to be able to survive one injury. And if you can't believe that you're going to go into, like, if you can't go into the rest of your rotation to do that, then that's a big worry. That's a big deal. So if I'm Denver, like, it doesn't necessarily matter who they go with. It might be Julian Strother, it might be Zeke Naji, it might be DeAndre Jordan. Who knows? Maybe it's Hunter Tyson or Vlatko Čančar. We just don't know. But I think they're going to have to find some person to step up in this moment that isn't just the starters and the other guys playing more. That to me would be crazy. So, yeah, hypothetically in this one, Jokic plays 41 minutes, Gordon plays 39, Jamal Murray plays 38, Christian Braun plays 40. They're all about 40 minutes. Peyton Watson plays 24. Russell Westbrook plays 29 minutes and closes the game. And Jalen Pickett and Zeke Naji and DeAndre Jordan play the rest of the minutes. So we will see whether that actually is something that happens. But yeah, I think Denver needs to at least be aware, and Nuggets fans need to be aware of what could happen if Michael Porter doesn't play. There is also the possibility that I'm wrong and Denver just decides to play Russell Westbrook 35 minutes and Peyton Watson 25 to 30 minutes. And that's just how they get through it. They don't have to worry about playing a whole bunch of other guys. They just play their guys that they trust. And maybe that's the way that David Adelman wants to do it. But I don't know. I think you got to be creative with some of these situations. Okay, final thing here. Christian Braun. Why Christian Braun is a key for tonight. This is one of my takes. Just kind of thinking about the game and think about what Denver could be asked to do. Think about what Jokic and Murray are going to be asked to do. Christian Braun has averages like 8 points per game. He's shot 1 of 6 from 3. He isn't getting the same amount of cuts, of free throws, of offensive rebounds, of all those things. Like the Clippers are bottling that up at least a little bit. And they're making him uncomfortable. They're making the Nuggets uncomfortable. The guy who is most emblematic of Denver's style of play working offensively is Christian Braun because he's the leading transition guy in the NBA. He's somebody who, when he attacks the rim, he finishes over the top of pretty much everybody. But against the Clippers, it hasn't really been the case. And then the other thing is that he is a spotty three-point shooter, but somebody that they could trust to take them in some situations. He took and made a big one at the end of game 1 that basically iced the game for Denver. And then he missed a huge shot in game 2, one where he needed to be comfortable in that situation and just didn't look comfortable and kind of rushed it. And like, look, I don't blame him for missing because sometimes you miss. Sometimes you miss shots, and that is not a criticism. But just finding the comfort level to be willing and able to take those shots without hesitation is important. And so the only way that you get to go through that is through experience. And now Christian Braun's had multiple experiences as a starter at shooting guard. And I'm curious to see where it goes from here. I'm curious to see how he responds. Against James Harden in the first game, he was not good defensively. Against James Harden in the second game, he was much better. James Harden had like 17 points, 8 assists, 4 turnovers, shot like 7 of 17 in the second game, and that's something you can live with. It's hard for me to really blame Christian Braun for Kawhi Leonard going off when he's trying to hold down James Harden, and did a reasonable job. So I think that on both ends of the floor, Christian Braun has an opportunity here. If you're tasked with guarding Kawhi, at least a little bit, you got to do the job. You got to do the thing. You got to force him to take as many tough shots as possible. If he continues to make them, so be it. Make it as tough as possible. If it's James Harden, he did a great job. And the other thing with the James Harden game on game 2, 0 of 0 from the free throw line for James Harden. That's notable because it's the first time in James Harden's career that he has finished a game with 0 free throw attempts. So Christian Braun did a great job of defending without fouling in that game. The Nuggets as a whole did. Jamal, I think, did a really good job in that situation against Harden, which is funny because like Jamal's the one who's getting cooked for guarding Kawhi Leonard when he made shots over him. But like Denver has been in a very interesting spot trying to match up with those guys. And with as much attention as Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray have on the offensive end, Denver needs somebody else to step up there. Aaron Gordon can do it, but he's also busy trying to guard Kawhi Leonard. And maybe he has an opportunity where he makes shots and is the third scorer, is the tertiary scorer that the Nuggets need. But in a game, I remember game 3 in the NBA Finals, where Jamal Murray goes for a 30-point triple-double. Jokic goes for a 30-20-10 game, I believe, or something crazy like that. When they go for both of those games, it was Christian Braun who stepped up and had 15 points off the bench in a very important situation. I think he went like 7 of 8 from the field. Could he do something similar in this game? Could he do something similar where you get to the rim on a consistent basis, you find more runouts in transition, you take and make the spacing threes that Denver really, really needs you to make, and you just find more opportunities within the flow of the offense to make your own individual impact? Because you know that Jamal and Joker are going to take up most of their shots. That's just how it's going to go. But can somebody else step up, especially if Michael Porter Jr. is bothered by the shoulder injury that he suffered? Could it be Christian Braun? That is what he's brought in to do. He's a starter now. The role is larger. Like, it's just a higher level of expectation than it was before. I've largely given Christian a pass for being the 5th option on the offensive end because you would expect Jokic, Murray, Porter, Gordon to be the main guys offensively. Like, who wouldn't in that situation? But now it's kind of compromised. And now somebody else needs to step up. And Christian Braun averaged nearly 15 a game maybe about 15 a game in the regular season. He's only averaged 8 per game in the playoffs. Denver needs him to be more productive offensively. They need him to find more offense. They need him to try to do it. So we'll see what happens. Curious to see how he responds. Curious to see how the entire Nuggets team responds. But folks, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll. Brought to you by our good friends at Mile High Sports. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button on the way out. We're doing a preview show at 7:30 Mountain Time for the 8 o'clock game. It'll probably start maybe a little bit later than that just because the game will start a little bit later than that. But 30 minutes before the game, we're going to be going live. It's myself and Zach Mikosh. So keep it right here at Mile High Sports and make sure to come hang out. We'll answer all of your questions pregame. Should be a lot of fun. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate the love and support on the podcast as always. I'll talk to you guys very soon.